Shalom, dear friends, and welcome to Finding Shalom and our Acts series. We are on Acts 22, and we're going to also read a little bit of 21 and do a refresher. However, I forgot to have a question of the day, and so I told them they can ask me anything. So they're going to ask me a question. I always put them on the spot.
So the one I instantly thought of was, Christa, tell us about your love of ice cream.
Oh, that's so much better worded.
Yes.
Oh, ice cream. Well, obviously she's on my Facebook page because I kind of eat ice cream wherever I go. And the whole thing is, I mean, it's not an experience until you have an ice cream cone with it, right? But I think it stems from my childhood because my mom gave me ice cream anytime, like, anything was scary. It's like, if you do this, I'll give you ice cream. Okay, so one example is, we had a Tasty Freeze. I don't know if you guys know what a Tasty Freeze is, but it's the soft cone and everything, and they even have the dipped. So we always went to swimming lessons, and I hated swimming lessons. I would actually literally hide in the bottom of the closet, or I'd hide under the dining room table. Every day she had to go find me and figure out where I was so I can go to swimming lessons. And every day when I got to swimming lessons, I loved swimming lessons, but I couldn't stand going to swimming lessons. I was scared.
And how old were you?
Oh gosh, from the time I was like 6 all the way up till I was in junior high. I still hated it. I did swimming lessons a lot, so I even went all the way up into life-saving in the whole bit. I don't think I was hiding in those days, but but anyway, she would say, if you go to swimming lessons, we'll all go to Tasty Freeze. So we would go. And then we also used to attend Meldyland, and my friend Sandy, she actually brought this up, and I was like, hey, that was the same thing for me, that same memory. If we all go to Meldyland for whatever thing they had, we'll go to Tasty Freeze afterwards. So I think that I reward myself often. If I have a stressful day, I'm like, I need an ice cream cone, yes.
Wait a minute, was the question, what's your favorite ice cream?
No, just what's with my obsession for ice
Oh,
cream.
what's the obsession with ice cream? Okay.
Yeah. But favorite, I don't know. There's too many good ones. But Rocky Road, if I go to Baskin Robbins. Oh, see, ice cream, it goes way back with me. We went to Baskin Robbins as a family. Those were happy times, you know what I mean? And I remember I would always walk right next to a bridal shop, and they would all go into the Baskin Robbins, and I would sit in the windows. And I ended up owning a bridal shop. So, okay, there's that question.
That's irony.
Yeah, I had one and then I forgot it. Oh boy. Was there ever a time that you was in a position that you didn't know what to do and God actually spoke to you?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Boy, we're going deep now.
Yeah.
That was a good question.
Yeah. Because
Wow.
I know there are.
Yeah.
And now I got to remember them. Which is good to remember what God does. You know, that's almost like my daily life. So I'm trying to think of an exact time. But when I owned the bridal shop, there were times when they were coming in and they wanted more taxes. There were times that I didn't quite have payroll. There were times, I mean, it was scary to run a bridal shop because you could collect all the money you could, and then all of a sudden one of your suppliers would suddenly, send $5,000 worth of dresses, COD, on your front step. Or we had one bridal shop that actually, I had to actually make their own
The bridal
account.
company.
The bridal company.
Yeah.
The bridal company, it was a supplier. And they would send me a COD for like $5,000. And then on this end over here, they would just, because they had my card number, they would just withdraw it.
Whoa.
And then I'd have to do all the back work to try to show them that I just paid twice. It was a real nightmare. So there were many times, almost every day when I owned the bridal shop, I walked in the front door, set my stuff down, I went into the bridal suite, closed the door before anybody got there, and I got on my hands and knees, and I was usually like, I can't do this day without you. I need your help. And one particular one, I would walk in the summer to the bank because I just needed a breath of fresh air. So say we had some big deposits and there was a break in appointments, so I would tell the girls, I'm going to walk, get some fresh air, it's been a stressful day, and I'm going to go to the bank. And one of the particular days I'm walking and I'm talking with God as I'm walking, and I'm like, this is really stressful. I need you to get me off this merry-go-round. This is not what I thought it would be. This is hard. And I heard immediately, it's that verse about the water will rush in, but it will not sweep over you. You will not drown. The fire, it came to me like exactly the way the verse did, which you can tell, I can never remember verses exactly, but it's that verse that just says, in other words, I'm testing you, and the water's going to come in, you're going to feel like you're drowning, but you're not going to drown. The fire is going to come, and you're not going to be burned, because I'm with you. And so that is one I remember very distinctly.
Wow.
So, and you know what? In all those years, 16 years of that, it always felt like I was drowning, and I never went under.
Wow.
He always took care of it. There was one particular time that the government just has a tendency, if they want some money, they just go and take it. And I was like, hey, I'm going to make payments, I'm going to do this, and I'm trying to do everything I can to make sure everybody's taken care of. I had just written all my payroll. He had just written our house payment. I woke up that morning and I open up our bank account and everything is zeroed out. I'm like, how can it be zero? There's a glitch. Come to find out, they had just walked in and said, well, I think we'll just take our money. And I said, dear God, I can't do this. You have to help. And
it was the state. It wasn't feds.
yeah, it
the
was
state.
just the state. They just decided they would just, even though I was making them payments, they just wanted it all at once. So anyway, I said, dear God, I cannot do this, and I need you to, I think you might have been there, we prayed, or I don't know if you were at work, I don't know.
No, that was when I was working with you.
And we just, no,
And that was during the recession.
it was that recession of 2018.
So we already had lost our house. We had already lost our house, and we were trying to hang on to the business.
Well, you had made a house payment, so I think we hadn't quite.
We were not at our house.
Okay. Well, anyways, however the logistics, because we don't remember them, I do remember God's saving power. His saving power was that we knelt down and prayed in the office at the bridal shop.
Yep.
And our daughter was not a believer. She had kind of left the faith, but she was there and she had her boyfriend with her. And they were showing up to work. And just as we had prayed and got up and we unlocked the door, in walks this dad of this bride we had met with like weeks before. He says, my daughter wanted me to buy this wedding dress. Here's $2,000. So I'm buying it for her. And I was just like, okay. So I got his paperwork all done, and then my daughter pulls up, and I said, stop, go take this to the bank. She goes through the drive-through, and the bank isn't that far.
Funny.
She goes through the drive-through, and before she could get back, another person walked in the door and said, hey, I want to pay for the rest of my gown that I've already bought. They threw down another $1,000. In walks another person. She looped around like 4 or 5 times, her and her boyfriend, and every time they looped back, I said, go take another deposit. Go take another deposit. And within
It was like a merry-go-round.
within 3 hours,
Yeah.
everything we had lost was replaced.
Yep.
Nice.
It was a huge deal.
Hey, you asked the question. Huge deal.
Okay, I got mine.
Okay.
So do you think in the present days we're living in, do you think the people that we work with, live around and pass by, do you think there's still, your opinion, do you think there's still a chance that they'll accept Jesus, or do you think they've written it off?
I think that's an individual question, and only God knows, like each individual. I think He knows who's going to come and who's not going to come. We don't know, so we just keep knocking on doors, and we just keep bringing the word to people. We just keep at it. Some people, I think, even last minute. I've been watching a lot of death lately, and I almost feel like even right at the end, you don't know, because Jesus could arrive. Because here, Michael, your stepdad, now he accepted Christ, we know, way back, but he wasn't living that way or anything. So we did have this question of, is he going to heaven? He's, he might pass away, and is he going to heaven?
Right.
And 3 days? It was the Wednesday. He died the next Monday. That Wednesday before he died, he had dementia. He was not coherent. He was kind of almost sleeping all the time. And he was sitting in the TV room, and Jay's mom, he was calling out to people, like his brothers that had already passed away. He was calling out for his son. He was, talking and everything. And then all of a sudden, he was sitting there, like he was smoking a cigarette, like he always did. And he had like a fake drink. And he was just kind of chatting with people. And he was taking his drink, and he was just like he was hanging out with people. And then she's like, I don't know what's going on. She comes back a little later, and he goes, they're right here. Who? And he's talking to somebody. And then she says, who are you talking to? And he goes, Jesus. Like, Jesus is right there. So I almost have this new feeling this year that even when somebody has dementia, even when they're at the end, Jesus himself might come right to them and sit and have a conversation and said, so are you going to follow me or not? Are you coming or not?
Yeah.
And that might have been because he made the decision earlier in life.
Right, at that Easter when the kids were
Yeah.
little and they went to visit him.
Yeah, but like each person, I don't know.
I'm just saying because, and the only reason why I asked that is because of the times we're in, and people are so on edge. People are so
nervous, stressed.
Yeah, anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
super anxious, very angry, whether they're driving around or in a grocery store or a regular store. People seem very hostile, they're so panicked of the uncertainty of where we're at in society today.
Isn't that exciting? Because they are never closer to finding God than when they're at the bottom of their pit.
Right.
When they're most stressed, scared to death. Why do you think, running the bridal shop and being scared every day about my finances brought me to the foot of the cross every day. It made me really hang on to him. And
Right.
even now, we're not having those financial problems.
Right.
But I kept that, kept that strength of, I gotta get on my knees today, because I don't know what today will bring. I don't know if there's a recession. I don't know if, the banks collapse. I don't know if
Sure.
grocery prices are gonna triple again.
Well, and I think that's where our thoughts on things are going to be different than the world's, than the people around us that aren't saved.
Mm-hmm.
We know who holds us in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
His eye is on the sparrow. How much more is his eye on us?
Yeah,
Taking care of us,
yeah,
and literally taking care of us,
yeah.
spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
He says he will never leave us nor forsake us.
Yeah.
We have to take him at his word.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have that hope, and that's why I was asking, do you
Yeah.
think that, and like you said, it's on an individual basis, but with the people around us that are spiraling out of control. I mean, even our friend, across the street, she's a therapist, and even, she says the numbers have been just unbelievable.
Yeah,
The people
they
that are
have
trying to get
waiting
in
lists
counseling.
at all the
Yeah,
counselors.
because everyone's so overwhelmed,
Mm.
Yeah.
and there's a long waiting list, and it's like
Yeah.
that is an indication of what's going on
Yeah, and
because
I think
they feel hopeless.
God
They do,
allows
not
that
us.
because He knows more will come to Him in
Right.
desperation.
Right.
Yeah, when you have nowhere else to turn and nothing else is working.
Yeah.
I've already seen like 3 things this year in January that I thought were pretty spectacular. One was me getting to see my grandson.
Yeah,
That we've got that under wraps. 2, even though it wasn't a good thing when Darla's son had his accident, but they got back, she was
Yeah.
able to care for
They
him.
were kind of estranged, and
Yeah. And then her other son and daughter-in-law went on vacation, so she was taking care of the children.
Yes.
So and then my other friend, whose son, she's in a similar situation where she doesn't have a whole lot of communication with her son and
Yeah.
daughter-in-law and grandkids as well. They live back east or in South Carolina or somewhere. She just showed up on our doorstep just to come visit him and his son that she
Wow.
hadn't seen in a while. And
Wow.
those seem minor, but they're really big.
Yeah. People are probably
That's
assessing
crazy.
life a little bit more. They're realizing that, we just can't be floating through life thinking everything's fine, and that's good.
Yeah, and my son posted on his Facebook page because he, I have to say he had visions of grandeur all the time, but one thing that he posted on Facebook was, "This is my 2024 wealth," and it showed a woman in a home reading and the father coming through the door with the 2 kids running to him, and he's like, so now hopefully is turning around, and
That he wants that.
yeah, and
He's longing for.
he
Yeah.
wants the family thing, so
Yeah.
yeah. But he went back to church on Sunday. He sat through a service with me when I was there, so hopefully he's, because I've been really pushing.
Yeah, that is exciting.
That's cool.
Well, and
really cool.
I sit with a lot of Christians, and they're like so frustrated that the world is so bad right now. I mean, it's just horrible, and everybody's just really upset about that. But the way I see it is, yay. That means that more people are going to turn to Him, and I actually love it because I type in Christian testimonies, and every day there's new ones.
Mm-hmm.
Every day there's another person who posts about, ever since 2020, you'll see them that 2021, 2022, 2023, or even 2020 itself. I came to Christ. I was a mess, and He showed up and He showed me the way. And I don't know. It's real easy to look at the negative,
Sure.
but it's exciting to actually see what God's doing behind the scenes. All the Muslims that are having dreams about Jesus, He's showing up in their dreams.
Yeah, that's
I mean-
amazing.
Like, so exciting,
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so, okay, well, let's dig into something else exciting, kind of, which is Acts 22. Let's go ahead and open up to that. A little bit into 21. We're going to go 21:37, and let's read. Oh boy, it just keeps going. Let's go ahead and read all the way to 21, 22, 21. If somebody wants to do that, we can even take turns.
So starting at 37?
Yeah.
As the soldiers were about to take Paul into the barracks, he asked the commander, "May I say something to you?" "Do you speak Greek?" He replied. "Aren't you the Egyptian who started a revolt and led 4,000 terrorists out into the desert some time ago?" Paul answered, "I am a Jew from Tarsus in Cilicia, a citizen of no ordinary city. Please let me speak to the people." Having received the commander's permission, Paul stood on the steps and motioned to the crowd. When they were all silent, he said to them in Aramaic, "Brothers and fathers, listen now to my defense." When they heard him speak to them in Aramaic, they became very quiet. Then Paul said, "I am a Jew, born in Tarsus of Cilicia, but brought up in this city under Gamaliel. I was thoroughly trained in the law of our fathers and was just as zealous for God as any of you are today. I persecuted the followers of this way to their death, arresting both men and women and throwing them into prison. As also the high priest and all the council can testify, I even obtained letters from them to their brothers in Damascus, and went there to bring these people as prisoners to Jerusalem to be punished. About noon, as I came near Damascus, suddenly a bright light fell from heaven and flashed around me. I fell to the ground and heard a voice say to me, 'Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?' 'Who are you, Lord?' I asked. 'I am Jesus of Nazareth, whom you are persecuting,' he replied. My companions saw the light, but they did not understand the voice of him who was speaking to me. 'What shall I do, Lord?' I asked. 'Get up,' the Lord said, 'and go into Damascus. There you will be told all that you have been assigned to do.' My companions led me by the hand into Damascus because the brilliance of the light had blinded me. A man named Ananias came to see me. He was a devout observer of the law and highly respected by all the Jews living there. He stood beside me and said, 'Brother Saul, receive your sight.' And at that very moment I was able to see him. Then he said, 'The God of our fathers has chosen you to know his will and to see the righteous one and to hear words from his mouth. You will be his witness to all men of what you have seen and heard. And now what are you waiting for? Get up, be baptized, and wash your sins away, calling on his name.' When I returned to Jerusalem and was praying at the temple, I fell into a trance and I saw the Lord speaking. 'Quick,' he said to me, 'leave Jerusalem immediately, because they will not accept your testimony about me.' 'Lord,' I replied, 'these men know that I went from one synagogue to another to imprison and beat those who believe in you. And when the blood of your martyr Stephen was shed, I stood there giving my approval and guarding the clothes of those who were killing him. Then the Lord said to me, 'Go, I will send you far away to the Gentiles.'"
Okay, so from last week, like, everybody was all upset and they were dragging him and about to kill him. They were kind of beating him. That's up in the verses above that in 21, probably around 30, 21:30. The whole city was aroused and the people came running from all directions, seizing Paul and dragged him into the temple. And immediately the gates were shut while they were trying to kill him. News reached the commander of the Roman troops. So basically, they are trying to kill him. They're beating him, and the Roman troops run in and seize him and grab him. And before they take him away, what does he ask them to do? Speak to the people, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And what does he want to say? I mean, I'd have a few choice words. But what does he do?
Well, he speaks to him in Aramaic, and then they got quiet because they're thinking, "Oh wow, he's one of us.
Yeah.
He is one of us. What did we do? Why did we beat him? That's not good. We beat one of our brothers." The wheels were turning then, and they were like,
Yeah.
that shocked them probably big time.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely. It probably took him back.
And after all that, he still wanted to save them. He
No.
wanted to bear
Yep.
his testimony
Yep.
And give him a chance.
and give him a chance.
Give him a chance to turn to Jesus.
Wow.
And telling them all that Jesus did and said to him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In Aramaic.
In Aramaic, which is the language that Jesus spoke.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So what else do you guys see? Like what? He gives his whole testimony.
Yeah, he said he studied under Gamaliel and was thoroughly trained in the law.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like a Pharisee. And he's telling them he's like a
He's
Pharisee.
like, I'm one of you.
Yeah. And then he talks about when Jesus met him on the road to Damascus.
Mm-hmm.
And asks him, why are you persecuting me?
Mm-hmm.
Yikes,
Yeah. The best thing we can do, the example here is the best thing we can do is give our testimony. The first thing when somebody, needs to know Jesus, the best thing we can do is say, let me tell you what Jesus is to me. Let me tell you what he's done for me. Let me tell you why I believe. We may not be able to, like Paul, he could have battled all the scriptures with them. He could have laid it all out. But he's like, let me tell you something personal. I was one of you, and I was persecuting the Christians. I was after them. And Jesus came to me on the road to Damascus. So
He was finding that common ground of,
yeah.
I was like you, and this is what my ambition was, and
Yeah.
like yours is,
Yeah.
but I was changed by Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you guys want to talk about in that
Well, that
section?
had to throw him for a loop too when he's talking about that he held the coats when they were killing Stephen. That he was he was like one of them,
Mm-hmm.
approving the stoning of Stephen.
Mm-hmm.
That followed the way.
Mm-hmm. And probably many of them remember Stephen and remember that stoning, I'm assuming.
Yeah, their mouths probably really dropped when he started talking about that.
You were
That he
there?
was the guy holding the coats
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and giving his approval. And then Jesus does the why are you persecuting me, flips his life around, and now he's preaching for the way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm surprised that they didn't know about who Saul was,
Yeah.
and that
They had to have known.
his
Original
didn't
story.
come. Yeah, that didn't come.
What they're saying, like last week or the week before
Must
when
have
we
been
were
quite
talking
some
about
time.
it, they were saying he's trying to tell us that the Jewish religion doesn't matter. He's trying to change.
Right.
Yeah, he's.
Well, that even makes this even more worse. That he calls them out on it in Aramaic and says, "I was just like you.
Yeah.
I knew the rules. I knew
Yeah.
the laws,
Mhm.
forwards, backwards, upside down by Gamaliel.
And
Thoroughly
Gamaliel
trained.
is, I think, a really famous rabbi, right?
I think so,
Yeah.
but thoroughly trained about the law.
Yeah.
So he knew it better than probably a lot of them.
Yeah.
And then they're realizing he is who he says he is
Mm-hmm.
in their language.
Yeah. And wasn't it that they told him that they were dragging? It was because he brought a Gentile into the courts and he broke all these laws.
Mhm.
Which, if he knows the laws, he's,
Mm-hmm.
It seems like they really didn't know who he was. I mean, they knew he was there to preach about the way, but I don't think they really grasped who he actually literally was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah, it was almost like they
like this might be a
weren't
new
sure.
generation of them.
Possibly because I don't know how much time has lapsed
Yeah.
since he converted.
And how many years he's been away
Yeah.
on mission trips,
Mhm.
because some of them were years.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because he tells them to leave quick, immediately, because they will not accept your testimony about me. In verse 18.
Yeah.
verse 18. let me see.
Because Jesus tells him, leave immediately, because they won't accept it. And then he goes back, and then they still won't accept it.
Oh, yeah. And
These guys weren't accepting it. They were trying to kill him.
Yeah.
I
The
will
thing-
send you far away to the Gentiles.
So the thing that I don't understand here is why he didn't start out speaking Aramaic to begin with. He could have saved himself a lot of beating.
I don't think they would have been happy either way. They were kind of out
They
to
probably
get Paul.
would have. They probably would have listened to him
Yeah.
more closely if he would have spoken Aramaic.
Maybe.
If someone comes to the door and starts speaking another language, I have no idea what they're saying.
Yeah. I think they all knew multiple languages. So they have Hebrew from, knowing the scriptures in the Bible.
Right.
And then for some reason, and I didn't research it, from Jesus' time, even a little bit before, everybody was speaking Aramaic, and then you have the Romans who have come in, and now they're all speaking, is that a
Greek.
language? Roman? Greek?
Greek.
I'm like, what language is Roman?
Romanine and
Romanine. So they're all speaking Greek. So they have, I think they're all like but I think it feels more comfortable when somebody's speaking your language.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
just thinking he could have saved himself a lot of beatings if he would have started out in chapter 21 speaking Aramaic.
Yeah.
Then they probably would have been caught off guard, and they would have been like, well, wait a minute, how can he speak our language?
Mm-hmm.
So he's not Greek,
Mm-hmm.
he's
What was
Jewish,
it
but he
too
speaks
that
Aramaic.
he said last week in last chapter that actually got them like
Fired up.
fired up? What was it that they said? That he said that was where they just went crazy.
So in 22 it says the crowd listened to Paul until he said this. Then they raised their voices and shouted, "Rid the earth of him, he's not fit to live."
So what's right before that?
I stood there. When he was giving his approval and guarding the clothes.
Are you talking 22 or 21?
Oh, in 21, going back
Oh.
into 21.
It had to do with the laws of Moses, right?
Yeah, it
Following
was
the
something where they went crazy.
Is that during
29.
Paul's arrival at Jerusalem?
The
The
next
7
day,
days
Paul
were
took-
nearly over. In 27, some Jews from the province of Asia saw Paul at the temple. They stirred up the whole crowd and seized him, shouting, "Fellow Israelites, help us. This is the man who teaches everyone everywhere against our people and our law in this place. And besides, he has brought Greeks into the temple and defiled this holy place." That's when they were
Okay,
crying
so
about
it
him.
was just because of the Greeks and whoever was up against him telling. It was kind of a mob thing, too. Yeah, it was a mob thing.
Well, isn't that a mob mentality? They don't listen to reason.
Yeah, they
all they
just-
do is like, let's go in and raid the stores
Yeah.
and take all the stuff off the shelves and just
Yeah.
beat everybody senseless because they have no idea what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go ahead and read 22 to 29 and just see what happens next.
The crowd listened to Paul until he said this. Then they raised their voices and shouted, "Rid the earth of him, he's not fit to live." As they were shouting and throwing off their cloaks and flinging dust into the air, the commander ordered that Paul be taken into the barracks. He directed that he be flogged and interrogated in order to find out why the people were shouting at him like this. As they stretched him out to flog him, Paul said to the centurion standing there, "Is it legal for you to flog a Roman citizen who hasn't even been found guilty?"
Surprise number 2!
You want me to keep going?
Yeah.
When the centurion heard this, he went to the commander and reported it. "What are you going to do?" he asked. "This man is a Roman citizen." The commander went to Paul and asked, "Tell me, are you a Roman citizen?" "Yes, I am," he answered. Then the commander said, "Well, I had to pay a lot of money for my citizenship." "But I was born a citizen," Paul replied.
Ooh.
Those who were about to interrogate him withdrew immediately. The commander himself was alarmed when he realized that he had put Paul, a Roman citizen, in chains.
Ooh. And then we'll save the rest of that for next week.
Like I said, surprise number 2. Right when the Jews thought they were going to beat the snot out of him, then they were going to flog
Suddenly
him.
he's just like them.
He's like, wait, time out. I'm a Roman citizen like you. Neener, neener.
He's a chameleon.
Yeah.
Just like, ooh, I'm a Jew like you. No, I'm a Roman like you.
Obviously, God knew what he was doing when he chose Paul, who was
Yeah.
Saul.
Yeah.
That's pretty actually comical.
Yes, it
This
is.
this whole piece right here.
To be born a Roman citizen, to be a Pharisee who studied under
Yeah, Lemuel.
Gamaliel, to speak all the languages, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's no wonder God picked him.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So he could move.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's,
Yeah, he could skate through all kinds of territory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
because he had his Roman citizenship and he was ex-Pharisee
Yep.
and knew the law very well.
You know,
And he could debate with the best of them
Yeah.
because he was trained by Gamaliel.
I think God does that for each of us. Like, where you were born, what your experiences are, what you learned, at different jobs. He did all of that for what he has for you.
That goes back to that verse, for such a time as this.
For such a time as this,
That
yes.
verse that's,
In
for
Esther.
such a time as this. Yep. God used those certain individuals, like in Hebrews, the book of the Hall of Fame,
Yeah.
all of the godly people that were nothing, but God put them
Yeah.
and esteemed them for such a time as that.
Yeah.
Ruth, Esther, Job,
Mm-hmm.
Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Paul.
He's like, I'm going
All
to
of
give you these talents.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you these qualifications, even if they're little. I mean, they're little things that God has done, if you really think about it, to where you are today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing goes for all of us too. Everyone that watches the YouTube videos and all of us, God's given us certain talents, certain ways to talk to certain individuals that we can personally reach.
Yeah.
Where I couldn't reach people you could reach, but you couldn't reach people I could reach. And
Exactly.
same thing for these guys too, is we all have that niche and we all go about it a certain way and we all know how to reach that certain person. And that's why God put us to go out.
The way we
and,
talk,
Yep.
our language, the people who surround us in our home, our neighborhood,
Yeah.
the people who surround us at work or, whatever.
Yeah, some people need tough
Facebook.
love and let them have it. Other people need it soft and
Yeah.
just gentle and ease them towards the gospel and understand what Jesus did for them on that
Yeah,
cross.
some people need a soft touch.
Yeah, and
other
some people need it. You know why your life's falling apart? Because you need Jesus, And other people don't need it, don't need to hear it that way.
Yeah.
But God made us all unique. Just like elsewhere. It says we were fearfully and wonderfully made
Yeah.
by Him.
What do you guys think about that?
Oh, I think it's absolutely true because the soft touch absolutely did not work with me.
You're not a soft touch
No.
kind of. You gotta have the.
Don't expect me to read between the lines because I won't get it.
You gotta just slap. You needed
funny.
a Paul to come into your life. Slap
awesome.
you.
Yes. Because when I finally did, it was time after time after time looking back, going, oh, he tried to get me there, and he tried to get me there, and he tried to get me there. He was throwing all these people in my pathway,
And
and it started adding up. And then when my dad did this, that
he
was
had to
it.
yell at you.
Mhm.
And see,
Isn't that interesting?
as a young person, that would have made me collapse and go hide. I probably seem loud and assertive, but I am a person of great fear. Jay can vouch for that. Like fear is probably my number one kryptonite, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And also I was pretty soft when we first met and everything, got married. But my shop actually, when I started my shop, I couldn't call people on the phone. I was a seamstress out of my home, and I would pace for 45 minutes before I made a phone call to say, your item is done, do you want to schedule an appointment?
She would freak out.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then
it would be all
yeah.
that she could do. And even when she opened her shop, people would come in to buy stuff, and she was like, Susie, that was it's like, what?
Yeah.
It's
But
like,
16 years, God says, you know what?
oh yeah, she's
I gotta put
transformed,
you
man.
through something that's gonna harden you up. It's gonna make you depend on me. It's gonna make you into who you are.
And I think God does that with all of us.
Mm-hmm.
When He gets us right where He wants us,
Yeah.
I think He does. Like Dave Ramsey talks about, God gets in there and He takes that sandpaper and He
Rubs the-
he He sands off those rough edges
Yeah.
so he can mold us into who he wants us to be and take us from where we were at into where he wants us,
Yeah.
you know.
And that's why the hard times are so good, because that's what God's using.
Yeah, because you
It's
know
the
God's
fire.
working on us.
Yeah.
Have you seen that
You know he's working
that
on
little
us.
movie that came out on Facebook, Unsinkable?
No.
Oh, it's pretty good.
Is it? I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't. So is it somebody who's just gone through?
It's several people, I think. I really need to watch it again, but it made me really stop and evaluate. I don't want to cry over this.
Come
The
on.
relationship.
Tissues are behind
Show
you.
your soft side.
The relationship and the conversations and the time that I had with my son the last time I was in Arizona, just
Oh.
recently, and talking to him and trying to encourage him and trying to be understanding, which is really hard because you're like, and you want me to understand that, Peter? And seeing the wrong way, I don't know, it was just really difficult, but I was hoping I was getting through to him. And then I was like, after watching that show, I was like, so I sent him this whole, because I couldn't get a hold of him on the phone, so I sent him this whole long Snapchat or text or whatever, and he talked to me on the phone, and he says, that's probably one of the best things you've ever written to me, Mom.
That's awesome. That's awesome. See, it's the
And
hard
I'm-
things.
And I'm like, well, I hope what I said got through. So,
Yeah, that's in calling.
no.
Perfect timing.
So anyways, it kind of did move me. So I, asked him if he would watch it, and I don't know if he has or not, but I would encourage everybody to watch it because I
Okay.
thought it was really great.
Unstoppable.
Unsinkable.
Unsinkable. Unsinkable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was good.
Well, that goes right with the verse that God gave me, which was, the water will, in fact, I need to find that. Water will rush in. I will find it. It's Isaiah 40.
I'll look it up on my phone. while
Well,
you're
look at
doing
that. My little thing was
Is
right
he
there.
right at it?
Oh my gosh.
Seriously?
Yeah, this thing
Wow.
just falls out and I stick it anywhere. Isaiah 43, and starting in verse 2. Actually, I want to back up. Let's go to right off the bat at verse 1. But now this is what the Lord says. He who created you, Jacob, which Jacob is another word for Israel. They would call him Israel. He who formed you, Israel, do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. For I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. And it goes on. It's a really good chapter. But that's the same thing, that you're not going to drown. You're unsinkable. It's Noah in the boat, right?
Well, it was very inspirational, and it was, it's just people sharing the things that they've gone through, and
Yeah.
that's what we're supposed to do. And like Paul, you get on that common ground. That's why it's so important not to just come rushing at someone with the word. You
Yeah.
kind of ease into it
Yeah.
and find something that they need.
Yeah,
Right.
Paul found the common ground with the Jewish people, and then he found the common ground for
With
his
the
own,
commander.
with the commander
Yeah.
and of
With
the
the Romans. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. Spot on.
and God to give you that common ground.
Yep.
Yeah.
My favorite part of that chapter, though, is the commander himself was alarmed, and he had realized that he had put Paul, a Roman citizen, in chains.
Yeah,
That is just like epic.
yeah. And then I realized as
Deep
you
breath,
started,
gasp.
as you started to read that, I realized where I was thinking, didn't he say something and they got really upset? It's when, verse 21, he says, Then the Lord said to me, Go, I will send you away to the Gentiles, in verse 22, the crowd listened to Paul until he said this.
Mhm.
Then they raised their voices and shouted, "Rid the earth of him!" You know, he's not fit to live. So it was the whole thing about the Gentiles.
Because Jesus sent him to the Gentiles instead
Yeah.
of the Jews.
So sometimes when you try to reach people, you can capture them, but when you have a message of truth, sometimes that's going to set them off, no matter what you, no matter how hard you try to be on the same page as them. You're delivering the truth regardless.
It reminds me of the one video with Ray Comfort, Way of the Master, in how he went and talked to those two girls, and that one girl says, "I'm not interested. I'm not interested in your Jesus or anything you have to say." And it was to the point of he had to just let it go because their walls were up. They weren't ready to hear the gospel yet. Their lives haven't come to the point of turmoil in such a deep pit and despair to where they didn't realize the Jesus that can bring the dead back to life, heal the blind,
It's always
heal the
so
sick.
sad to me
Yeah,
when we watch the
they
Ray
just weren't-
Comfort things and we realize,
they just weren't ready.
yeah, and people walk away and say, "I don't want to know that Jesus." I'm like, no, you don't realize what you're doing.
Oh, I did. That's what I'm saying. I did that when
Yeah.
I finally got back or got to the point where, oh, and then I looked back. It was like
You saw everybody.
I was sitting in a
It's
laundromat.
knocking.
Yeah, I was sitting in a laundromat and just going, oh God, I get myself in this situation. What am I gonna do? Blah, 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 blah. And these kids came in and they were all, and and this guy sat down next to me and he was gonna speak the word to me, and I was just like, just go away.
Oh. And now you're like, come back.
I'm like, oh, I could have avoided all of this.
Yeah, like how many years from this point to this point, or how much mess? Yeah.
But you give your testimony and then God will take care of the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it was from like 78 to 1992.
Wow. Yeah. That's going.
And isn't it something when you do look back and you
Mhm.
see, wow, Jesus was trying to catch me there and he was trying to catch me there. And then you feel so incredibly loved
Mm-hmm.
if you really think
Yeah.
about it. He was chasing me all this time
Yeah,
and he never quit.
right.
No, and he was very patient.
Yeah.
I think with all of us, he's very patient. I mean, at least in my own story, he was very patient. You know? Yeah. He never stops.
Thank God.
Oh my gosh. Well, anything else you guys see that you wanted to bring up before we close it out? That was a good one. Okay, guys, we have wrapped up chapter 22, and we will continue with 22:30 on through 23 next week. So thank you all for joining us. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. We want to hear your comments and your opinions. They really matter to us. We love reading them. So, and give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you want more content like this. Love you all. Have a wonderful week. God bless. And shalom.